Welcome to Lesson 1.8 of the Grant Architect course. In this lesson, we begin our examination of ethics in grant seeking, a topic of fundamental importance to professional practice. Grant professionals occupy positions of trust, handling significant resources, and representing both their organizations and the broader nonprofit sector. How you conduct yourself as a grant professional matters not just for your own career and organization, but for the integrity of philanthropy as a whole. By the end of this lesson, you will understand the ethical principles that should guide your work, the professional standards that define ethical practice, and how to maintain personal integrity while pursuing funding effectively. Ethics matter in grant seeking for multiple reasons that extend beyond simple compliance with rules. Public trust underlies the entire philanthropic sector. Donors give because they trust that their money will be used appropriately. Foundations and government agencies make grants because they trust that recipients will act responsibly. When grant professionals behave unethically, they damage not just their own organizations but the public trust that makes philanthropy possible. Professional credibility determines your long-term success. The grant world is smaller than it appears. Funders talk to each other. Word spreads about organizations and individuals who misrepresent their work, fail to deliver on promises, or cut ethical corners. Your reputation follows you throughout your career. Field integrity means that individual behavior shapes perceptions of the entire nonprofit sector. Every scandal involving grant misuse, every case of fraud or misrepresentation makes it harder for all grant seekers. You have responsibility not just to your organization, but to the field as a whole. Personal values should guide your work. How you pursue funding should reflect your deepest commitments. If you work in the social sector because you care about doing good, that commitment should extend to how you seek the resources to do that good. Several core ethical principles should guide grant-seeking practice. Honesty means representing your organization and work truthfully in all communications. This includes proposals, reports, conversations, and marketing materials. You should never misrepresent your qualifications, exaggerate your capabilities, or make claims you cannot support. Honest communication builds trust. Dishonesty destroys it. Transparency involves being open about your intentions, methods, and relationships. Funders should understand what you plan to do with their money, how you plan to do it, and any relevant relationships or potential conflicts. Hidden agendas and concealed information undermine trust even when the underlying activities are appropriate. Accountability means taking responsibility for your commitments and actions. When you accept a grant, you accept obligations. Meeting those obligations, acknowledging when you fall short, and taking responsibility for problems all demonstrate accountability. Blaming others or hiding failures shows lack of accountability. Respect involves treating funders, colleagues, and communities with dignity. This includes respecting funder guidelines and processes, valuing colleagues' contributions, and centering community voice in your work. Arrogance, dismissiveness, and disrespect have no place in ethical grant practice. Professional organizations have developed ethical standards that provide guidance for grant professionals. The Grant Professionals Association, or GPA, has published a code of ethics specifically for grant professionals. This code addresses issues including accuracy in proposals, confidentiality of proprietary information, avoiding conflicts of interest, and responsible stewardship of grant funds. GPA members commit to upholding these standards. The Association of Fundraising Professionals, or AFP, has established ethical standards for the broader fundraising profession, including aspects relevant to grant seeking. These standards address donor rights, solicitation practices, and accountability. While focused more on individual giving, many principles apply to institutional funding. The Council for Advancement and Support of Education, or CASE, has developed ethical principles for educational advancement professionals, including those who seek foundation and government support for educational institutions. Their principles emphasize integrity, transparency, and accountability. Common themes across these standards include honesty in all communications, protection of confidential information, accountability for funds received, avoidance of conflicts of interest, and respectful treatment of funders and donors. These themes represent professional consensus about ethical practice. Honesty in proposals is foundational to ethical grant seeking and deserves detailed attention. Accurate representation means describing your organization, staff, and past performance truthfully. Do not exaggerate your reach, your impact, your expertise, or your past successes. If you served 500 clients, do not claim 1,000. If your executive director has 5 years of experience, do not claim 15. Funders rely on your representations to make decisions. Realistic projections mean promising only what you can reasonably deliver. Setting ambitious goals is appropriate, but setting goals you know are unachievable to impress reviewers is dishonest. Overpromising leads to underperformance, damaged relationships, and loss of credibility. Complete information means not omitting relevant information that funders need to make informed decisions. If there are significant risks to your project, disclose them. If there are factors that might concern funders, address them honestly rather than hoping funders will not notice. Strategic silence can be as dishonest as active misrepresentation. Original work and proper acknowledgement mean your proposals should be your own work. Acknowledge sources. Do not present others' ideas as your own. Do not recycle language from other organizations' proposals without permission and attribution. Conflicts of interest require careful attention in grant-seeking practice. A conflict of interest exists when your personal interests or those of people close to you might influence your professional judgment. Conflicts do not necessarily mean wrongdoing, but they create situations where wrongdoing becomes more likely. Common examples include financial relationships with vendors or consultants who might benefit from grant activities, family members or close personal relationships with funder staff or board members, serving on boards or having financial interests in organizations that might compete for the same funding, and situations where your personal benefit might conflict with your organization's interests. The disclosure obligation is to reveal potential conflicts to affected parties. If you have a relationship with someone at a foundation where you are applying, disclose that relationship to your supervisor. If you have a financial interest in a vendor you are recommending, disclose that interest. Let others decide whether the conflict is significant. Managing conflicts typically involves recusing yourself from decisions where conflicts exist. If you have a personal relationship with a funder, perhaps a colleague should handle that relationship. If you have a financial interest in an outcome, perhaps you should not be the decision maker. Confidentiality obligations arise in multiple contexts within grant seeking. Proprietary funder information should be protected. If a funder shares information about their strategic direction, upcoming priorities, or internal processes in confidence, respect that confidence. Do not share this information with competitors or use it in ways the funder did not intend. Competitor information requires careful handling. You may learn about other organizations' approaches, budgets, or strategies through various channels. Respect the proprietary nature of this information. Do not share other organizations' proposal content, and do not use information obtained inappropriately to gain competitive advantage. Internal organizational information may be confidential. Your organization may have strategic plans, financial projections, or other information that is not public. Understand what is confidential and respect those boundaries, even when sharing information might seem to advance your grant seeking. Program participant data requires protection. If your work involves serving individuals, you have obligations to protect their privacy. Proposals and reports should protect participant confidentiality. Data should be handled in accordance with privacy policies and applicable regulations. Responsible stewardship of grant funds is a fundamental ethical obligation once you receive funding. Intended use means using grant funds only for the purposes specified in your proposal and approved by the funder. Grant funds are restricted resources. Using them for other purposes, even worthwhile purposes, violates the terms of your award and the trust the funder placed in you. Efficient use means avoiding waste and unnecessary expenditure. While you should use funds for their intended purposes, you should also use them wisely. Excessive spending on travel, meals, or other expenses undermines stewardship even when technically allowable. Stewardship asks whether spending is necessary and appropriate, not just whether it is permitted. Accurate reporting means reporting expenditures and activities honestly. If you underspent your budget, report that accurately. If you did not achieve projected outcomes, report that honestly. If problems occurred, acknowledge them. Funders need accurate information to assess their investments and make future decisions. Timely reporting means meeting reporting deadlines and requirements. Late reports waste funder staff time, delay decision making, and signal disorganization or disrespect. Build reporting deadlines into your project calendars and meet them consistently. Respecting funder relationships demonstrates professionalism and contributes to a healthy philanthropic ecosystem. Following guidelines means respecting application requirements and processes as funders have designed them. If a funder asks for a 2-page letter, do not send 10 pages. If they specify no phone calls, do not call. If they have a deadline, meet it. Circumventing processes or ignoring guidelines disrespects funders and often backfires. Appropriate contact means honoring funder preferences about how and when to communicate. Some funders welcome phone calls, others prefer email only. Some welcome informal conversations, others prefer formal processes. Pay attention to stated preferences and respect them. Professional boundaries require maintaining appropriate professional relationships with funder staff. Relationship building is important, but relationships should remain professional. Personal relationships that cross professional boundaries create conflicts of interest and can damage both parties. Gracious response to both success and rejection reflects professional maturity. When funded, express appropriate gratitude without excessive effusion. When rejected, respond professionally rather than with anger or argument. How you handle rejection influences future opportunities. Ethical compensation practices in grant seeking deserve specific attention because problematic practices exist in the field. The prohibition on contingency fees is a widely accepted professional standard. Grant writers should not be compensated based on whether grants are funded or on the amount of funding received. Contingency fees create incentives to overpromise, pursue inappropriate funding, and potentially shade the truth to maximize awards. Reputable grant professionals are paid for their work, not for their success rate. Reasonable compensation means fair payment for professional services rendered. Grant professionals provide valuable expertise and should be compensated appropriately. What is reasonable depends on experience, complexity of work, and market conditions. Neither underpayment that undervalues the profession nor excessive fees that exploit clients serves ethical practice. Clear agreements mean having written documentation of compensation terms before work begins. What services will be provided? How will compensation be calculated? When will payment be due? Written agreements prevent misunderstandings and protect both parties. Avoiding finder's fees means not paying or accepting fees simply for referring funding opportunities or making introductions. Such fees create incentives for inappropriate referrals and can compromise professional judgment. Grant professionals play multiple roles that carry ethical responsibilities. The advisor role involves helping organizations pursue appropriate funding. This means not just writing proposals, but helping organizations assess fit, evaluate capacity, and make strategic decisions about what funding to pursue. Good advice sometimes means recommending against pursuing an opportunity. The gatekeeper function means declining to support inappropriate pursuits. If an organization wants to apply for funding they are clearly not suited for or wants to misrepresent their work to qualify, a grant professional should decline to participate. Your expertise comes with responsibility to use it appropriately. The educator responsibility involves helping clients and colleagues understand ethical boundaries. Many people new to grants do not understand compliance requirements, proper stewardship, or ethical standards. Grant professionals should educate others about these expectations rather than assuming knowledge. The advocate position means speaking up when you see problems. If you observe misuse of funds, misrepresentation in proposals, or other ethical violations, you have responsibility to address them. This may mean internal conversations, escalation to leadership, or in serious cases, external reporting. Building an ethical practice requires intentional effort and ongoing attention. Self-awareness is essential because everyone is capable of rationalization. Under pressure to meet goals or secure funding, it becomes easy to convince yourself that small compromises are acceptable. Recognizing your own potential for rationalization helps you stay vigilant. Ask yourself regularly whether you would be comfortable if your actions were public. Institutional support means building organizational systems that reinforce ethical behavior. Clear policies, oversight mechanisms, training programs, and cultures that value integrity all support individual ethical behavior. Advocating for strong organizational ethics benefits everyone. Peer accountability involves engaging colleagues in maintaining ethical standards. Discuss ethical questions openly with peers. Create environments where people feel comfortable raising concerns. Hold each other accountable for maintaining standards. Isolation makes ethical compromise easier. Community makes it harder. Continuous learning keeps you current on evolving ethical issues and best practices. Read professional publications. Attend conference sessions on ethics. Participate in professional associations. The ethical landscape evolves, and your understanding should evolve with it. Pressure to compromise ethical standards is common, and knowing how to respond is essential. Recognizing pressure is the first step. Pressure may come from supervisors, board members, or internal deadline stress. It may be explicit or subtle. Notice when you feel pushed toward actions that make you uncomfortable. The discomfort itself is a signal worth heeding. Naming the concern helps you think clearly about what troubles you. Is the concern about honesty, compliance, fairness? Articulating the specific ethical issue helps you evaluate its significance and explain it to others. Seeking counsel from trusted colleagues or professional advisors provides perspective. Sometimes what seems like an ethical problem is actually a misunderstanding you can resolve. Sometimes others can suggest alternatives you had not considered. Sometimes they will confirm that your concerns are valid and support you in addressing them. Considering consequences involves thinking through both short and long-term implications of different courses of action. What happens if you comply with the pressure? What happens if you resist? What are the risks in each direction? Often the short-term pain of resistance is far preferable to the long-term consequences of compromise. Personal integrity is ultimately about who you are and how you want to live your professional life. Values clarity means knowing what you stand for before pressure arises. If you have not thought about your ethical commitments in advance, you are more likely to compromise when pressured. Take time to reflect on what matters most to you and what lines you will not cross. Boundary setting involves establishing clear limits in advance. What will you not do regardless of pressure or consequences? Knowing your boundaries before you face difficult situations helps you hold them when tested. Boundaries might include never misrepresenting facts, never participating in fraud, or always disclosing conflicts of interest. Career considerations include choosing employers whose values align with yours. If you work for an organization that regularly pressures staff toward ethical compromise, your integrity will be constantly tested. Choosing organizations with strong ethical cultures makes maintaining your own integrity easier. Legacy thinking involves considering how you want to be remembered. At the end of your career, what do you want people to say about how you worked? A reputation for integrity built over decades is worth protecting even when short-term pressures suggest compromise. Let us summarize what we have covered in this lesson on professional ethics in grant seeking. Core ethical principles of honesty, transparency, accountability, and respect should guide all aspects of your grant work. These principles are not abstract ideals, but practical guides for daily conduct. Professional standards from organizations like GPA, AFP, and CASE provide specific guidance on expected conduct. Familiarity with these standards helps you understand the profession's ethical expectations and align your practice with them. Key ethical areas include honesty in proposals, management of conflicts of interest, protection of confidential information, responsible stewardship of grant funds, respectful funder relationships, and ethical compensation practices. Each area presents specific challenges and expectations. Building and maintaining personal integrity requires self-awareness, institutional support, peer accountability, continuous learning, and clear personal values and boundaries. In our next lesson, we will explore ethical dilemmas and case studies. We will examine specific difficult situations that grant professionals face and consider how to navigate them while maintaining ethical standards. Real-world dilemmas often involve competing values and unclear right answers.